and Chucky wanna play?
Welcome to It's Always Sunny in Hollywood. It's always Chucky in Hollywood. I'm your host, Red Drum Arts. Why don't you two introduce yourself? This is my good guy doll. This is
Hi, I'm Loogie. Wanna play?
Hi, I'm Patty, and I don't really have a quip related to the movie, though this does take place in Chicago, and I do love me a Chicago-style pizza.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about Child's Play. So Child's Play came out in 1988. It was directed by Tom Holland, not the one you're thinking of, a different Tom Holland. This Tom Holland is classic kind of horror director. He's done a couple. Screenplay was by Don Mancini. Don Mancini is kind of the architect of the entire Child's Play franchise. He's been involved in every entry. So Don Mancini is really kind of like the guy who's like really shaped the vision of it, and he's also directed several entries after a while. Because after a while they're just like, well, all right, man, you've written all of them, just do it yourself. Actually, it came out in November, which is funny to me. Like it came out after Halloween, but it still was pretty successful, grossing $44 million on a $13 million budget. You know, obviously this is a big cult following, and it's had a ton of sequels and even TV shows. So yeah, pretty successful. So Don Mancini first came up with the concept when he was in college in UCLA. Yeah, he was basically just inspired by the kind of the rampant consumerism of the 80s and the effects of marketing to kids. Because if you guys didn't know, Reagan basically lifted up a bunch of restrictions against advertising to kids, which is why the 80s was kind of like the boom of the that sort of cartoon. Also, Mancini had a troubled relationship with his own father and experiences of alienation as a gay man, which led to him sending the script around a kid and a single mother, no father figure. And obviously, a big influence was the Cabbage Patch riots of 1983. Do you want me to explain what that is?
If you want for context.
Yeah, so the Cabbage Patch Kids toy line was incredibly popular in the early 80s for some reason, and it led to violent customer outbursts at several retail stores. People were fighting over it. It was kind of like it's a precursor to early Black Friday.
So, Cabbage Patch Kids walked so Tickle Me Elmo could run.
The original script title was going to be Batteries Not Included, but obviously a different film with the same name came out before it, so they had to change it. The puppetry was pretty interesting. So the film used various ways to depict Chucky. They had like a bunch of radio-controlled animatronics. There was like 9 puppeteers. They used some child actors. They used a couple midgets. Surprisingly complex for what's essentially a low-budget film.
Actually, I have a quick question. So, I've never actually seen a Child's Play movie before. This is my first rodeo. Lugia, have you seen any of them?
No, I only knew of them by name, but I never really delved into them because like they were slasher films, and if you know me, you know that slashers aren't really a genre I care for in particular.
Child's Play was the first R-rated movie I ever saw, and I've seen a couple of the other Chucky movies just because I liked it. So obviously, I guess I have the biggest history here.
Have you seen any of the other ones?
Yeah, I've seen a few of the others. I've saw 2 and 3. I think I saw Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky. So I'd say like the first 5 I saw. The series it gets very different after the first 3. After the first 3, it basically just becomes a comedy, and it's we stop following. Andy is the main character of the original trilogy, but after that, we just follow Chucky, and it's just a comedy. We meet Chucky's like wife in the 4th one, and they have a kid in the 5th.
Do I want to ask how a doll has like a wife and kids, or is it Charlie's or
It's more.
Charles's wife?
It's Charles's wife, and then she gets put in a doll. I don't remember how the kid happened, but it was more voodoo stuff. The voodoo thing is they keep that up. I heard the recent TV show is pretty good, especially because they made a reboot in 2019 that people did not like, and then the TV show went back to the original series canon, and everyone's like, hell yeah. But yeah, pretty consistent series, I'd say. Like it's one of the few like slasher things where I'm like, if you like it, might as well watch all of them. It's not like Halloween where it's like, the 2 and 3 are kind of good, but the rest kind of suck. Whatchamacallit,
Friday the
Nightmare on Elm
13th.
Street?
Friday the 13th is a weird one where like people are kind of mixed on what's like even the good entry because Jason ain't even the killer in the first one, but Nightmare on Elm Street where like that one's like I think people have like that one has a more hit or miss reputation. People like the 3rd one. 2 has like a cult following, but it's not like super popular. You know, people don't really like the ones after 3. Some people like, I think like 8 or something, like New Nightmare, because that's like a almost like a reboot, and it's from like the director of the first. But you know, slasher movie franchises are not known for their consistency, with the exception of Evil Dead and Chucky. All right, so the movie opens with Detective Mike Norris chasing a fugitive serial killer, Charles Lee Ray, through the streets of Chicago and into a toy store. His accomplice flees the scene of the crime, and the cop basically shoots Charles Lee Ray dead. As he's bleeding out, he performs a voodoo ritual and transfers his soul into a nearby doll. And then the store is struck by lightning and causes explosion shortly after. Which is insane opening, but you know, it is what it is. We then follow, single working mother, looking for a doll to get his kid, for his birthday, and you know, obviously, she buys the doll from someone who went through the wreckage and stole it. Then, basically, Chucky kills the babysitter, and this is sort of the inciting incident, and it becomes effective like a detective movie. The detectives suspect it's Andy, and Andy keeps insisting Chucky did it. And there's a lot of like tension there. And then right around the halfway point of the movie, Chucky is revealed to actually be alive, and we pivot from focusing on Andy back to the mom and the cop, and it's basically just kind of a hunt to find out how to kill Chucky. Also, they add a ticking clock element where Chucky is getting more and more human as the film goes along. I have some commentary on everything I just said, but that's the overview. What did you guys think?
So I thought Child's Play, for my first time, I thought it was a solid horror movie, but not really a whole lot more than that, which is perfectly fine. I thought it was fun seeing Chucky do his Chucky thing, and that scene where he electrocutes the guy to the point where his eyes and mouth start bleeding was genuinely terrifying. Like, good God. The characters were fine, like they functioned well, like for what they had to do, but I didn't really care much for any of them, and I felt like some were a bit underutilized. Like the main voodoo guy, he appears in like one scene and gets killed.
That's kind of the thing with slashers. A lot of the characters aren't really memorable. You only really remember the actual killers because that's what they advertise the most, and not so much like the main cast.
I think Andy becomes pretty interesting as the series goes along because again, he's in more of these movies. Child's Play one of like the few series where they actually kind of like keep around some of the characters.
What's the time
Yeah.
jump from the first film to the second film?
Not that far at all. Andy's
Okay,
still a kid.
because I was wondering if like he like grew up a little bit.
The third one is he's grown up. In the third one, he's in military school.
Okay.
Yeah, but the second one, he's still a kid. And yeah, it's kind of got the classic, kid recovering from trauma thing. Well, one thing I kind of like about the first versus the second one is that this is just commentary on this movie, but like Andy's like I feel like Andy's a real kid here, which I don't see a lot in other horror movies. Like earlier this year, I saw this movie Weapons, and that kid acted like way more wise beyond his years. But here, this kid, he speaks in that kind of like slow sort of way a lot of kids do, and then like when it gets serious, I don't know, I kind of believe his fear. And in the second movie, obviously he's like kind of traumatized from this. So at that point, he's a bit more sullen. At least there's like, it makes sense because, But yeah, what did you think, Lugia? If
So
you're done, Patty.
I'm done. I'm done. I liked it, but I feel like it's kind of a one and done for me. Like I saw what it was, I enjoyed it for what it was, but that's kind of it, honestly.
Okay.
I will say the other movies of the series they shake it up because like obviously this movie is built around kind of tension for the first half. Second movie, I feel like the other movies lean a lot more into comedy because like the second movie, like Chucky's alive from the whole time, so they don't even bother to hide it. So it's more, and you follow Chucky a lot more because it's about him like trying to figure out how to get access to Andy because he's in foster care now. And
I'm not against
pretty
seeing
funny.
the other sequels, but I'm also like not in a hurry. Maybe one day.
I'd say they're reliable watches for Halloween
Okay,
compared to like other horror
so maybe
movies.
next year. Anyway,
Yeah.
Lugia, what do you think?
So I've said before how slashers aren't really for me. Interestingly enough, Child's Play does not fall under that for me. And that's mainly because of Chucky being the slasher villain. Because when you look at movies like Halloween or Friday the 13th, like the villain is just a guy. Granted, a
Yeah, they're
very
silent
fucked up
too.
guy. They have like a tragic backstory to insinuate why they kill people, why they want revenge on certain people. Chucky, though, I think is interesting in the fact that since he is now a doll, they play around with how he kills people more than just what you'd get with like Jason and whatnot. The scene where the detective is in the car and Chucky's inside the car and trying to kill him with a knife, like he's stabbing through the seats. He presses on the gas pedal to make the car go faster and crash into something. I thought what they did with Chucky in this film was very creative compared to other slashers I've seen, and I would love to see the sequels if they do more of that.
You know, also one thing I also particularly liked about Chucky is that he's got a personality.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like it's not even like the way Freddy Krueger is, because Freddy Krueger still kind of feels like more of like a Looney Tunes type force. Chucky is like an actual guy, and even like and performance wise, and you kind of mentioned this, you know, before we started the podcast, but I feel like he's similar to Jack from The Shining, like in performance. You know, he even kind of has like talks in similar ways, like yeah, I kind of
He
like that.
breaks
'Cause,
down
you know,
a door. I was half expecting him to like peer through the crack he made through the door and say, "Here's Chucky."
Yeah, honestly, like I kind of like how the climax of the movie kind of felt like the climax of the Shining. Like it's a very Jack Nicholson type guy chasing a kid and his mom, and he's like breaking down doors. It's kind of funny. Like honestly, I feel like this movie, like combined, it reminds me of a lot of like horror movies because it starts off feeling kind of like The Exorcist. It becomes like a sort of like the Candyman because it's kind of like a detective thing, and then it just becomes, you know, The Shining. It's kind of cool. I agree. Like I think there's an interesting quality to the fact that Chucky is like a doll. Like one, you know, there's a classic kind of like, you know, there's like a lot of comedy that can be mined from it, you know, just due to the fact that, you know, he is like a tiny little dude. But I also feel like there's something like a little like extra scary, you know, kind of like seeing a kid's toy, you know, being perverted like that. And
Especially in the scene where the mom like finds out that the batteries weren't inside Chucky and he's been talking
oh
all
yeah,
along.
Yeah, yeah.
that scene is
That
like
was
one of
great.
the best parts of the movie. Yeah. Yeah, I actually like wrote down a bunch of notes for that because I wanted to talk about it. So I'll get into that in just a sec. But I don't know, like the fact that like perverts like a kid's toy, I think like adds like an extra layer of like kind of creepiness to it, especially because like you know, he has access to this kid, and they lean more to this into sequels. So you know, so but like you know, the fact it's a doll, like obviously like the parents, they're like one like the parents don't believe him in the second one, but like the second one, like this time like. You know, Andy's actually in danger. It's not like, you know, in the first one where it's more like Andy just is trying to get people to believe him. The second one, he's in danger, and the fact that people don't believe the doll's alive is like it feels like threatening, you know. It's got like the kind of insidious like quality that like, you know, which is I don't know, I think that's good. Add something to the horror. Well, one thing I really like about this movie, especially compared to like some other horror movies, is like I feel like I never get bored because it always does something new. I feel like with the movie, like it's constantly changing perspective. Like we have the opening scene, then we have the setup, and then, you know, immediately after the setup, we have the first murder, and it kicks off a kind of mystery. You know, and then we have you know, another kill, which kind of adds intrigue, but also it has like a cool like POV thing, which changes, you know,
I
in
did
terms
like
of
that. I
filmmaking
did like
needs.
seeing from Chucky's point of view the mischief he
Because we're not
does.
even supposed to know that it is Chucky
Yeah.
like actually killing these people. We are meant to suspect that maybe Andy is doing this, which
Here's the thing,
you know,
I
turns
don't
out
I don't fully I don't fully agree with that. The way I saw it is like it's really obvious that the doll is alive. The only question is that you don't know how it's alive. Like you don't know like in what nature it is, because we don't see it move ever up until the halfway point. And that's also what I was trying to get at with the pacing, because like with the pacing, like, you know, after the second kill, you're kind of like, oh, is just gonna be this, you know, Andy asks, you know, Chucky kills someone, Andy denies it, and they, you know, slowly figure it out up until the climax where it's revealed, you know, he is alive. But no, they reveal at the halfway point, and that completely pivots the movie, which I think is cool. Like I feel like every time you expect the movie's gonna get repetitive, it does something completely different, which kept my attention. You know, compared to like some other slasher movies where it's just kind of like it feels the same old. You know, like here, because like there is this mystery element, and like because he's like this doll, there it constantly get to change perspective, because like, you know, we follow Andy for a while and we changed the character a couple times, and you know, it was able to do a lot of like different reveals. You know, the voodoo, there's like a mystery element. I don't know. I feel like they're able to shake it up a lot, which kept me engaged, like, you know, the whole time. I feel like I had a lot of fun with that. But yeah, since we're about it, I like the kind of ambiguous tension, because like we know the doll's alive, but everyone doubts Andy, and it makes you feel gaslit. Like, in the opening, I saw the voodoo ritual. I know that this is Chucky's franchise. Maybe they doubt him so much. After a certain while, I'm like, man, maybe like there is something else going on. Also, I remember like the first time I ever watched this, like it was very obvious to me that it was a low budget movie. And I feel like that actually added to suspense because I remember the first time watching it, I didn't know if they were going to show the doll moving or not. At least I didn't know if they were going to show it like to that extent. The way they don't show it, it feels like Jaws almost. And with Jaws, like you barely see the animatronic the whole time. So I thought it was going to be kind of like that. But then the halfway point came around, and he came alive, and he's like fully articulate, like, and his face is moving. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like his
I
appendages
like,
move. He gets lip synced. It's crazy.
yeah, it was like way like more involved than I thought it was gonna be. And because like even before that, like you could believe that like I knew he was alive, but I could buy that he was just telling Andy what to do and he wasn't actually doing it himself. Like I know that the soul is in there, but can it move? Maybe it's a totem and he's possessing him too. There's the Conjuring movies. You guys know the Conjuring movies?
I've
Yeah.
heard of them.
So the Conjuring movies are also about a possessed doll, the Annabelle doll. And in that movie, she doesn't move like that. She doesn't move like a person. The head spins around. I think they float a couple times, but it's not like that. And again, this movie is structurally very similar to The Exorcist, which is about like a possessed kid and things. So I was thinking like, maybe it would be that, maybe more poltergeisty, Chucky floats. But no, like he is just alive like a person, and it was very freaky. I guess here's my question: did you like the kind of slow burn thing it was doing, and then like the reveal?
Yeah, I do prefer a movie to like slowly build up to like a great ending rather than like it blow its whole load at once and it's just kind of like, all right, I get it. And this fits in that first category. Like I really liked the ending where it's just Chucky trying to get the kid and the adults are trying to stop him from getting to the kid.
Like you said,
Yeah.
Red, the movie's constantly throwing something new at you with every scene, and I think that slow burn is part of the reason why it works so well.
I just bring it up because surprisingly, I think it's because Chucky is like such a fun character, that people tend to like prefer the sequel, Child's Play 2 to the first one, just because you get more of Chucky. But I don't know. I kind of like appreciate that they kind of hold back on this first one a bit, and
He still has his
he's there
moments.
for long enough. Yeah, he's there long enough. Like, the fact it was a halfway point, I was like, oh, like, it's not the climax, it's the halfway point. So you still get like plenty of scenes with him, which I think is cool. It changes the source of intrigue also, because like at first it's more of like, oh, is he alive? And it's like, okay, he is alive, but like now we need to find out, more information. And I really like that scene with him talking to his voodoo friend, because one, it's a good character scene, but also it adds a ticking clock. That was so cool to me when Chucky gets injured, because in every other slasher movie, like the slasher is just invincible. You can shoot him and he feels nothing. Sometimes they'll have him like feel pain or something, just to, like add some tension to the scene. So I thought that's what it was doing for a second when he screamed. I was like, oh, it's just some adding tension. But no, it's like an actual plot point, and I was like, oh shit, that's really cool. He was like, I feel pain all of a sudden when I didn't feel before. What the hell?
So if we're going off of that logic that he's becoming more human the longer he's in the doll's body, shouldn't his head getting blown off be like the definitive end?
Well, I don't think he's like fully human. I think like at that point he can just feel pain, but he's not like, because like he got shot in the chest and he's still alive, and he's just like, I can
Well,
feel
he
pain now.
Gets
Well, yeah, but-
decapitated.
I think the idea is that once the clock like runs out, that's when he actually becomes human. Like once he's out of time. But
So they killed him
he's not out
too
of time
early
yet.
for him to die, is what you're getting at.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I guess I don't know. I felt like even though I did enjoy the third act the most, I do feel like it went on a little bit long. Like he gets set on fire, and I thought, all right, he's dead now. But no, he's still alive. He's coming after them. He's just like melted. Then they shoot his head off, and they shoot his other limbs off, and I'm like, all right, that's it. But he's still alive. And then they do one last shot at him, and then that's the end of the movie. I don't know. I felt like maybe they could have cut it sooner.
So how did they bring him back in the sequel?
It's very complicated.
Oh boy.
Basically, I think his like blood gets inside like a batch of good guy doll thing at the factory or something. I think that's what happened. Yeah, I think the good guy doll, to like save face with negative publicity, they acquire the Chucky remains and then reassemble him. Like they want to reshare stockholders. There's nothing actually wrong with it. I think like it's a court thing where it's like, look, there's nothing wrong with the dolls. Look, we rebuilt him. He's fine.
Okay.
And I think in some other movies it's like more of like a blood thing. I know with the Chucky 4 and 5. He's just chopped up in like the third one, I think. So in Chucky 3 and in Chucky 4 and 5, his girlfriend just sews him up back together before like he dies. So Chucky has some cool scars in some of the movies. Just this updated like edgy character design. The horror movies just kind of like gotta accept logic for some of this stuff, you know. Plus, this is like a voodoo thing. Like it's not even like one of those horror movies that tries to be like a little realistic with science or whatever. No, it's like, nah, man, it's voodoo, it's magic.
Fair enough. I'm just saying, like, by the movie's own rules, I was a bit confused.
Yeah, I get it. No, but like, it makes sense, like if you think about it for a sec. But it is a bit unclear. But yeah. I also thought it was kind of funny. It's just a thought, but I thought it was kind of funny just how they kind of manhandle the doll like in the first half of the movie, like the babysitter's just tossing it around, or like I thought it was really funny in the police interrogation room when Andy's like, "Come on, Chucky, start talking." They start smacking him around like he's a cop interrogating someone, and he like just punches him in the gut. I'm like, whoa.
Well, he can't feel pain yet, so he doesn't care.
I know he doesn't care, but like it's just kind of funny. And I feel like that's like a good way of like establishing that like he doesn't feel pain because like he gets hit all these times and he doesn't react. So and then later he does, and so now you're like, oh, okay, something's changed here. I think that's all I gotta say. You know, I like the performance of the kid. I feel like the performances are all like very serviceable. They're not like
They get the job done.
crazy, but they're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although
Obviously, Chucky is the real
I want to
standout
give
here.
I just do want to give the kid credit because like it's not easy to do that.
And that line he has, "This is the end, friend," that actually goes pretty hard. Not gonna lie.
So guess all of us recommend it.
Yeah, I'd love to
Yeah.
give Child's Play 2 a try as well.
Definitely recommend it. If you like this, check out at least the first two sequels. I'd say after the first two, it kind of changes a bit. TV show I heard is pretty good though.
I'm not as
And,
enthusiastic as you guys, but again, it's not a bad time at all.
You know, definitely say like if you don't typically like slashers, I feel like this gives you enough that you might be interesting. Also, if you like Child's Play, I think some other movies you might like is Candyman. I don't know, this gave me just kind of a similar vibe to Candyman. Also, it was nice to know that this was his birthday and not Christmas. For a sec, I thought I was picking another Christmas slasher, but no, it's just his birthday.
Anyway, Lugia, it is your turn.
So I know when we record next time, it's going to be November, but I have not gotten in a horror pick yet. So I want to make sure I get that out of the way while I still can. Now,
Okay.
it's going to be a little different than what we've talked about before. With Mad Monster Party, it's more of like a comedy using just monsters, so there's nothing really horror about it. And Child's Play is definitely more of a horror film, but it's also a little more playful with how it presents its antagonists. We're just gonna get straight up fucked up for next week.
Oh?
Because we're going back to a returning director, David Lynch, with
Hell yeah.
Eraserhead.
Finally, the one David Lynch movie I haven't actually seen yet, which I know is weird because it's his first and most iconic one, but
I've
all right,
heard
Eraserhead.
so many things about Eraserhead, and I've wanted to watch it for the longest time.
Well, good things about it too.
So
I know it's just like one of his most surreal ones, so don't expect to understand it clearly.
So brace yourselves.
Oh boy.
I guess I'll close it out. Have a nice Halloween, and this is the end, friend.